1 Kings chapter 17, verse 7 through 16. We're going to read more scripture than some of y'all be reading in a week anyway. So you're getting your Bible reading out. Once you have it, say, I have it. If not, they're going to put it on the screens. Let's go ahead and put that up there. Verse 7. But after a while, the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Then the Lord said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. I have instructed, look at somebody and say, I have instructed a widow there to feed you. So he went to Zarephath, and as he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, would you please bring me a little water in a cup? As she was going to get it, he called out to her and said, hey, bring me some bread too. Now, Elijah, you was good when you asked for the water, but you're going too far when you ask me for some bread. All right, but she said, I swear by the Lord, your God. Somebody say, your God. That I don't have a single piece of bread in the house. I only have a handful of flour left in the jar and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and then my son and I will die. But Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Look at somebody and say, don't be afraid. Go ahead and do just what you have said, but make me a little bread first. Then use what's left. Not what you lost, but use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will every now and then, there will always, somebody shout always, be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again. So she did as Elijah said, and she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. But there was always enough flour and olive oil left. I can stop right there because that'll preach by itself. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. For the next few moments, we're going to speak from the topic, I can't stay here. I don't know about you, I don't know about your mama or your cousins, but I can't look at your neighbor and say, I can't stay here. I got to move. I can't stay here. I got to move. Let us pray. God, we thank you. We honor you. We thank you for your word because we know that it is blessed. God, don't just let us hear your word, but allow that word to permeate every aspect of our lives so that we can emerge and become more like you. It's our prayer in Jesus' name. On your way down, say, I can't stay here. Sit down. I know y'all feet hurting. Y'all standing on this concrete ain't no joke. Oh, God. We have had more church in this first hour than most churches have it in 6 months. So I know my assignment. I understand my assignment. I'm not going to preach you. I'm going to talk to you. We're going to have a conversation. Can we do that? It is just like God. God will oftentimes put things within our reach, but beyond our grasp. He will put it within your reach, but he'll put it beyond your grasp. Why? Because we're going to have to do something to position ourselves to lay hold of what he has for us. God will not just drop it out of heaven and feed you and do X, Y, and Z. Why? Because manifestation requires participation. Say that with me. Manifestation requires participation. After listening to this series, let me tell you something that I've been challenged with. I've been challenged in the area of this. I said this to myself, no more settling. I told myself that the other day. I said, I'm not going to settle another day. I'm not going to settle for an average relationship. I'm not going to settle for an average marriage. That's not going to settle for an average career. I'm not going to settle. Here is why. Because God will let you live and die on the level that you settle on. I know we quote Psalms 23, Pastor Keys, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. But don't stop there. He said he leads, he don't force. He's a shepherd that leads. He's not a dictator that will force you into what he has for you. If you and I are going to lay hold to the promises of God, there's something that we must do. Deuteronomy 30:19 says this, I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore do what? Choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. It's your choice. If you want to live on this level and die on this level, it's your choice. If good is good enough for you, then good is good enough for God. Those same children of Israel that walked out of Egypt with the promise of Canaan, some of them died going to the next level. God can have promises over your life. But if we don't position ourselves and make the decision to say, I am not going to settle here, we won't lay a hold of it. I can't settle. I've learned this, that life doesn't rise to the level of your expectations. It falls to the level of what you settle on. You keep expecting stuff from people. People don't do what you expect them to do. People will operate at your level, at your standards, what you settle for. Can I get an amen? Settling stops when I say it stops. And I've learned that if I'm going to stop settling in my life, I have to shift. Look at somebody and say, it's time to shift. It's time to shift. We know what a shift is. Anybody ever drove a stick shift in here? If you was born after 1983, you don't know what that is. These millennials are like, what's a stick shift? What are you talking about? But these boomers in my generation, like, we know exactly what that is. Listen, it's like life is literally like a stick shift car. I remember, this is a funny story. I wasn't trained on learning how to drive a stick shift. I was trained on learning how to drive an automatic. And my brother-in-law, he said, he had just got a brand new car, Bishop, and he said, hey man, I'm gonna let you drive my brand new car to the prom. I'm like, yo, this is dope. I'm G'd up. There's a brand new car out there. I get in the car. And I look down and I realize there's this apparatus that I have never seen before in my life. Now, I had a destination. I had plans. I had a vehicle to get me there. But the thing standing between my destination and where I was I needed to shift. Look at somebody and say, you need to shift. You need to know what to shift. You will be amazed at how many people that are doing life and they don't know that they need to shift. And so like driving your car, when you put it in first gear, you can go fast, about 25 miles per hour. And then all of a sudden that joker gonna start to, and what the car is telling you that you need to do something. Life is the same way. There are certain areas of there are certain relationships in our lives that are, and listen, if you don't shift, the car starts shaking violently. Keita, it'll start moving. You know, what's shaking in your life? That God is saying, stop crying about it, baby. It's just you need to shift. Life will send us signals. Life will send us signals. So it's good to know what to shift. It's good to know when to shift. Now, the next thing is, as it pertains to shifting, is you got to know how. Never before in my life have I seen so many people that are making decisions just by the seat of their face. I got to move. I got to jump out. Okay? God can tell you what to do. God can tell you how to do it. But you and I, we must sit and wait for God to tell us how we need to do it. God can tell us what to do. He can tell us when to do it. But we need to wait on God to get the how. It's not enough to know what to do. It's not enough to know when to do it. You have to know how to shift. Moses knew he needed to help the Hebrews. He knew he was called to do it, but he didn't wait on God to get the how. So Moses wound up killing a man in the wilderness, and it caused him to be delayed for 40 years. What things in your life have you killed that's caused you to be delayed because you knew the what, you knew the when, but you didn't wait on God to get the how? Every shift in your life will require a strategy. It will require a strategy. Why is shifting so hard? Why is it when we make the decision to move forward and to shift some things in our lives, why is it so hard? There are three impediments. The first one is position. Somebody say position. We move in the direction we are facing. For example, if I am facing this way, which direction am I going to move in? This way. Now, if I'm facing this way, and what God has for me is that way, then every step I take in this direction takes me further away from what God has for me. Why? Because I'm positioned wrong. Sometimes we have to fix our position and turn and say, okay, here it is. I want to buy a house. Okay. Amen. Somebody say, help us. I'm trying, baby. I'm going to help you. I promise you. I want to buy a house. Okay, I'm going to say, check your position. Because you can want to buy a house all day long, but if every time you get depressed, you wind up going to the mall and maxing out your credit card and spending tomorrow's money today, you can want that house all you want, but you are in the wrong position. You are positioned in the wrong way. Look at somebody and say, you got to fix your position. The next impediment that we face when we are moving forward or when we are shifting, Bishop Ford, is people. It's an impediment because when you make the decision to move forward, you have to say, who am I going to have to leave behind in order to make this shift? You know how many people are staying stuck with people because we don't want to hurt their feelings? We know that God has something more for us, but we don't want to be alone. So we'll wind up settling for Brad. And you know Brad ain't gonna never make you happy. He ain't gonna never make you happy. But you settle with Sharon, she's never gonna be able to fill that void. But because you don't want to step outside of your comfort zone, you settled on this level. And God is like, well, if you settle for Brad, if Brad is good enough for you, then Brad is good enough for me. You and Brad go ahead and do your thing. And then we're praying, God, help me. Lord Jesus, help me. No, help me. God is like, no. Sometimes the shift requires for you to look at people in your life and say, listen, you were good on this level, but where God is taking me, you can't go with me. That doesn't make you bad. I love you. We had a good time together, but it's time for me to move. And so if I got to move on, let me tell you something. I love people, but I don't love people more than I love my purpose. If purpose is pulling me and pushing me forward, Keita, let me tell you what I'm not going to do. If I got to cut you off so that I can lay a hold of what God has for me, snip, clip, baby, you got to go. If I got to sleep alone, I'll sleep alone. If I got to go to the movies by myself, I'll go to the movies by myself. If I got to do whatever I need to do by myself, I will do it, but I will not settle. Y'all got anybody in here that refused to settle, Emmanuel? I refuse to settle. You got to have some people in your circle that think on a different level than you think. You got to have people in your circle that make more money than you make, that are doing things on a totally different level, but most of us don't want to do it because we get intimidated. So we're surrounded by people that are worse off than we are. People is an impediment. Who's in your circle that's pulling you? And who's in your circle that's pulling from you? You have to interrogate your circle. People. The third impediment, is this helping anybody? The third impediment that we face, Edwin, is the impediment of past experiences. I'm going to let that marinate while I get me some water right here. Thank you. Past experiences, good or bad. Let's talk about bad experiences. I know we sing the song, I'm so glad, and a trouble don't last always. Y'all know that song. But let me tell you about that. What they didn't tell you, let me tell you what ain't in that second verse. Trouble may not last always, But the trauma that's associated with the trouble will stick around long after the trouble is long gone. So you can go through trouble in your life, and you can experience trauma that's associated with it. And if you and I'm talking to myself too, if we don't have an acute awareness of how to process the trauma can be gone. Y'all could have been broke up 14 years. But if you didn't process through that hurt, through that betrayal, you will be stuck in a place that you don't need to be. You have people that are bonded to their trauma. They are bonded to their dysfunctions. You ever met somebody that is always something going on? You know somebody like that, don't you? Look, she throwing her head. Whoa. I mean, it's always something. It's always something. Like every time I talk to you, something is wrong. The problem is they have bonded with the trauma, because if you go and try to take it away from them, if you try to take the dysfunction, they'll be like, I don't know how to live without this dysfunction because I've always had it. So it becomes like my pacifier. It becomes my blanket. It becomes because you bonded to the dysfunction. I had a homeboy that I tried to help, pastor. I tried to help him. You know what I did? I got this joker in an apartment. I put it in my name. Y'all know how this story ends right now, right? It's my homeboy. We grew up together, Keys. I wanted to help him out. I got that joker in an apartment, put it in my name. Guess who wound up having to pay for that apartment? Me. You know why? Because I was trying to bring him into a place that he didn't really want to go. You will be amazed at how many people are married to a dysfunction while they're praying and they're shouting like we was doing a minute ago. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to let go of that dysfunction, you will stay stuck right where you are. While Zion can be calling, but you can't pick up the phone because you're stuck in an average, mundane existence. Bad experiences, J-Bo. Then there are good experiences too. Because there is a dimension in God where I don't need you to talk about overcoming failure. I need somebody to teach me how to survive success. Everybody in this sanctuary ain't struggling. Don't you fool yourself. We got some people in this God bless sanctuary that God has blessed in an amazing, I'm talking about people that are doing stuff that will blow your ever-loving mind. Teach me how to survive success. Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, he said this: the greatest impediment to future success is past success. Why? Because past success, it breeds complacency. We become arrogant. We put our lives in park. One of the greatest things that happened to me, I'm sorry for yelling, please forgive me. One of the greatest things that happened in my life was when God blessed me, Nate, to win a Grammy. I don't say that to brag. If anybody know me, you know that ain't even my style. But that was one of the greatest things that happened. But let me tell you something, the flip side of it was one of the worst things, because every time I go in my office, I get this sense of, yes, I'm grateful, but it's this, boy, you done good. Well, that's good until you realize that you ain't dreaming no more. See, you can settle at the place of your last success. What happened to me was I was patting myself on the back, not realizing that while God blessed me here, God was saying, boy, don't you settle, because there is more. I know you was the first person to go to college, but there is more. I know you were the first person to open a practice, but there is more. I know you were the first person to make $1 million in your family, but God told me to tell you, don't you settle. There is more. If you believe that, give God a praise. Look at your neighbor and shout, there's more. There is more. I can't settle here. God, you've been good to me, but I can't settle here. There is more. There is more. There is more. So what will happen is, here's how God would do things. Because God is so dope. He's an incredible businessman. He knows exactly what he's deposited inside of each and every last one of us. And some of our purposes are so big that God says, I can't let you settle. I can't. So here's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start drying some things up in your life. I'm going to start drying some things up in your life, Because if I don't dry them up, you will settle on a level. You will settle where I'm saying, I got so much more. So where have you settled? And so God said, I'm going to dry it up. He'll dry up relationships. You know, you used to be able to call that home girl and you'd be like, hey, how you doing? Now when you try to call, she ain't even picking up the phone. Why? God said, I got to dry up that relationship. There are opportunities that God had to dry up, because if he allowed them to keep happening, we will settle right there. God is like, nope, I can't let you do it. I will dry it up. If I got to dry up the brook, I'll dry it up. If I got to cause the ravens to stop feeding you, I'll make sure it stops, because I want you to get to that next level. What is God drying up in your life that you're saying is the devil? It ain't the devil, baby. God said, I am the author. I am the person that's behind. I told them to leave. I made them not like you anymore. I made them look over you and give the promotion to somebody that was less qualified. I made them give the raise to somebody else, because I don't want you to settle for less when I have more. Look at somebody say, there's more. There's more. He dried up the brook, and I'm in my text. He dried up the brook. He made him uncomfortable. It's like the mother eagle, Pastor, and I'm all stirred up. That mother made the nest very comfortable. She would bring them worms. Y'all good? All they had to do was wake up, Keys, and open your mouth. That only works for a season. Because if you're not careful, you will turn that season into a cycle. Some of us, Daytona, are in a cycle where we're still wanting God to bring us worms, and God says, no. So he'll begin to stir up the nest of our lives, and that same mother eagle will come, instead of bringing worms, she'll start bringing sticks. And she'll begin to make that nest uncomfortable, because she knows if I don't make it uncomfortable, they will live and they will die. Look at somebody and say, I won't stay here. I can't stay here. I can't stay in this nest. Yes, it's comfortable, but more is available to me. And I am willing to let go of what I can see so I can go after what I cannot see. Because if God has it for me, I want it. Look at somebody and say, I want what he has for me. Somebody say, well, Pastor Chris, why are you yelling? Why are you so passionate about this? It's very simple. Because I'm a church boy. I'm a church boy that I have an awareness of the prophetic. I've heard words being spoken over people's lives that did not come true because they died. The richest place in the world is not the diamond fields of Sierra Leone. The richest place in the world is not Wall Street. The richest place in the world is on every corner. It's a graveyard. I say it every time I preach. Why? Because it's filled with opportunities that were never maximized. It's filled with songs that were never sung. It's filled with books that was never written. It's filled with those things that people never moved on because they ran out of time. I want to ask you, are you running out of time? Are you running out of time? If there's something that COVID taught us and this pandemic is this tomorrow ain't promised. All you have is now. Whatever you need to do, you need to do it now. If you need to check some stuff, check it now. If you got to move some things, you need to move it now. Don't waste your time, because tomorrow is not promised. All you have is right now. You got now to make it happen. You have now to forgive. You have now to let it go. I cannot keep harboring and holding on. All you have is now. Do you know what time it is? It's like the men of Issachar that had an understanding of the time. Do you know what time? What time is it? It's getting late in the evening. The sun's going down. You better make that move and make it now. So we talked through the impediments. Position, people, past experiences. God would make us uncomfortable to force us to move on. here are the steps. I don't want you to be like I was the other day when I went to the doctor. I'm 43. I went to the doctor. He said, boy, you're pre-diabetic. Your blood pressure's high. Your cholesterol is borderline. I'm like, when did this happen? I mean, Trav, we work out every day, dog. We in the gym every day. It's in the blood, but that's a conversation for another day. So he told me, he gave me all of these things that I needed to do, but Keys, when I got home, because I didn't write it down, I couldn't remember nothing that joker told me. So it was inspiring, but I couldn't apply it because it was just inspiring. I ain't trying to inspire you today. I want to give you some steps. Do you want steps? Do you want some steps? Here's how we're going to move forward. Step one. If you want to move forward, there are things that moving forward requires. Forward movement requires forward thinking. Want me to say it again? Forward movement requires forward thinking. Okay, so Isaiah 42:16 says this, and I will lead the blind in a way that they do not know, in paths that they have not known. So you don't know it, you have not known it. I will guide them. God told Elijah to go to Zarephath. Okay. Zarephath, when I began to research it, do you know that that was the region that Jezebel was from? So God sends him into enemy territory. And then he tells him that I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to use a widow. See, a widow in the Bible is different from a widow in today's language. Widows are strong. I admire, they're superhuman to me. I admire their strength, the tenacity to continue to live in spite of their loss. But back then, if you were a widow, you were the least in society. So God tells him, I want you to go into a place where it's not to your advantage, it's enemy territory. And then he also tells him, I'm going to use an unlikely resource to take care of you. This is where most of us miss it. We put God in a little box and we want God to bless us the way we want him to bless us. But God is saying there are some unlikely resources that I want to use. People that don't speak churchanese. People that don't go to the Potter's House of North Dallas. God is saying, what if I wanted to use that person to set you up for what's next? Forward thinking, forward movement requires forward thinking. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box. Sometimes you have to say, God, I need you to blow my mind, but God can't blow your mind in a little box. God, teach me how to think on another level. Increase my sensitivity and my discernment to know who you are sending into my life that's designed to bless me, to set me up for what's next. Here's my thing I want to ask you as it pertains to forward thinking. Do you have a vision? What do you want? It's quiet in here because when you start to ask these reflective questions, people don't know how to answer them. You know, I talk to a lot of people and I sit down and say, Darren, what do you want? I don't know. Well, how can God bless you if you don't know what you want? What are your goals? A vision is a picture of a future that's preferred. What wakes you up in the morning? Please don't say coffee. Do you have something inside of you that wakes you up in the middle of the night and is driving you? I can't stop. I can't settle. I got to go after this thing. God, I can have it. Do you have anything like that in your life? I want to ask you, have you given your faith something to look forward to? Forward movement requires Forward thinking. Ask God to open your eyes. We quote scriptures like, "I have not seen and ear have not heard. Neither has it entered into the heart what God has planned." But your eyes are closed. Get outside of your box. We serve a big God. We serve a big God. I laugh because me and my wife, we go to bed every night and we look at this show called Hawaii Life. Because I tell her and she tells me that I don't quite know how this thing is going to end up. But we're going to end up in Hawaii. I thought I would have got some more help because I thought I would have some other people in here that has outlandish dreams and outlandish goals and things that just don't make sense, that when you tell other people about it, these people try to talk you down and say you can't have it, you can't go after it, that's too big, you ain't never done nothing like that, nobody in your family ain't never done nothing like that. No. I want God to give me something that I know that I can't accomplish by myself. What are you looking forward to? Step 2. I only got 4 of them. We'll be done. Forward movement requires commitment. God sometimes reveals his plans in steps. He releases it incrementally. It happens in stages. God doesn't give it all to us at once. Verse 10 says, so he went to Zarephath, step 1. And he arrived at the gates of the village, and he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, he says, would you please bring me water and a cup, step 2. And as she was going to get it, he said to her, bring me a bite to eat too, step 3. The Bible is a strategy guide. It gives us step by steps, but we don't want to read the word. We'll rather go talk to our cousins and ask them, what should we do? And we wind up in a worse situation because we're asking somebody that cannot help us to get to a place that they ain't never been themselves. Why did God give it to us in steps? 1, it keeps you from being overwhelmed. If God dropped the totality of your vision, if he gave it to you at one time, it would kill you. So he has to give it to you in bite-sized pieces. The next thing that it does is it interrogates the level of our commitment. This is why God gives us things in steps. I've learned to never underestimate how God can do something big through one small act of obedience. The civil rights movement changed when a woman by the name of Rosa Parks did something so small and it seemed insignificant that it changed the world. What is the one small thing? Don't worry about the big thing. What's the one small thing that God is telling you to do? What's the one small thing? Pay your bills on time. Tell your wife you're sorry. Wake up with gratitude. Stop complaining. This ain't good. This ain't good. It's very, very practical. This is gonna be harsh. I'm not interested in your Sunday. I'm interested in your Wednesday and your Thursday. That when that organ ain't here and I ain't yelling on this microphone, you understand, it requires commitment. He gives it to me in small steps. And as we do things on this level, we show God that we're ready for the next level. If you want to move forward, show God that you can handle what you got on this level. If you want to have 50 clients, show God that you can handle 5. God blesses us when we commit to the process. He told Abraham, leave your country, leave your family. He told Gideon, I'll give you the victory if you're not afraid. He told Elijah, go to the widow's house. Have you completed that one step? Or are you trying to skip steps? See, this is what I do, okay? I hate following instructions when it's time to put things together. Me and Pastor Travis had the assignment and the task of putting a basketball to go together. And we almost came to blows. Because this joker is reading every single word. Come on, man. We got to do this, man. I'm like, man, forget this, man. Show me this picture, dog. We're going to put this thing together by this picture. Man, I rigged that joint up so bad, we had to wind up taking the whole thing apart and start all over again because I wanted to skip. I wanted to skip. See, when you skip steps, let me tell you when it comes out to bite you. When it's time to transition and you need to take it apart, you can't retrace steps you never took. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. God has spoken. Stop skipping steps. Say amen. The third step. If we're going to move forward, the third one is this. Forward movement requires us to self-correct. You know, I was that kid that my daddy ain't had to beat me multiple times over the same issue. Now, my baby sister, she got destroyed. Because you beat me one time, I'm good. I done learned that lesson. I'm like that in the spiritual too. God, you ain't got to get me but once. And I ain't gonna never, ever do it again. It requires us to self-correct. But she said, I swear by the Lord, your God. Here's where I need to work. There are situations that you and I will go through that will make us question the very existence of God. I'm ready, Jay. Let's ride, Tonto. She says, but I swear by the Lord, your God. Self-correct. God, if you were real, why'd you let this happen to me? God, if you are a God, why did you let me go through? Why didn't you protect me from this storm? See, moving forward, it requires complete honesty and transparency. See, what's happening with some of us is that we're harboring feelings of resentment, not towards other people, but we're harboring feelings of resentment towards God. Self-correct. You love me? Why was I molested? Why didn't my mom protect me? Oh, let's work. Self-correct. She says, I don't have a single piece of bread. I ain't got nothing to give you. I only have a handful of flour left in the jar and a little cooking oil. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal. Then my son and I would die. What stood out to me with this particular text, Keys, is she says, it wasn't just me preparing to die, but my son too. See, your decisions and your paradigm and your pathology, it don't just affect you. How many of us, Emmanuel, are fighting our daddy's devils? Our mother's devils. See, this lady had lost everything. Her husband, her job, her possessions. She lost her ability to see forward. Life can hit you so hard that you don't want to think about tomorrow. You're just trying to survive. Do I have anybody in here that's just trying to survive? You talking about 5 years down the road, Chris, I'm just trying to get myself out the bed. The Bible didn't even give her a name. She's known as the widow. She was named after her circumstance. Have you ever been named after your circumstance? Hi, my name is Bitter. Nice to meet you. Hi, my name is Angry. What's up, dude? You good? Have you ever been defined by what was done to you? Hi, my name is Abandoned. Hi, my name is Abused. How do you do? Have you ever defined yourself by your worst mistake? Oh, Jesus. The thing you ain't told nobody about that you just can't forgive yourself for. Hi, my name is Shane, Pastor Joe. The losses and the disappointment she faced that caused her to, like Sarah, to rock those hopes and dreams to sleep. What dreams have you rocked to sleep? What dreams? Right here, second row. Have you rocked to sleep? What dreams have you given up on? We all do it. So I don't want to isolate you. That's everybody in this sanctuary. What dreams have you reckoned? I'm sure that when she walked down the aisle with her husband, she never thought that she would have to do life without him. I'm sure when they were painting the baby's nursery and they was building the crib and getting all that stuff together, I'm sure she, in a million years, had never fathomed into her mind that I'm going to have to raise this boy by my... What do you do with the things you don't see coming? What do you do with the affair, the divorce, the bankruptcy? The diagnosis. I was just going in for a regular checkup, and now I stage 3 breast cancer. Are you kidding me? I didn't see it. What do you do with the setbacks of life? Because we will have setbacks. It's not about avoiding them. The key is to not get stuck in them. We must understand this. How to not get stuck in your setback. We must understand that setbacks are an opportunity for us to self-correct. How do you self-correct? Change your perspective. Change how you see what you see. Is this happening to me, or is it happening for me? I've learned to ask myself this question: what is this requiring of me? Is it requiring me to make peace with my past? Is it requiring me to forgive what I can't forget? I'm talking about self-correcting. Is it requiring me to embrace the pain of recovery? It has been said that, listen, you can break your ACL in a moment, but it'll take you 12 months to recover from it. Is the setback requiring you to embrace that pain that you've been putting off? 1 Corinthians 11:28 says this: but let a man examine himself. That word literally means dokimazo, and is translated as test or to examine. In secular Greek, it was used to describe a scene in the marketplace where authorities would examine coins to make sure they weren't counterfeit. Is your desire to move forward real, or is it counterfeit? How do we interrogate it? God sends us a setback. Setbacks give us an opportunity to reevaluate. Because I've learned this. If you change how you look at the situation you look at will change. If I had some sunglasses on, if you could bring me that prop. The thing about sunglasses is they taint or tint what it is. You can put it on the flag. I'll get it out. Thank you so much. Them polarized joints, Trav. They actually change the color of what it is that you see. So if you have on red sunglasses, everything you look at has a red tint. If the lens upon which you and I look at life is from a bitter tint, everything that you encounter is seen through that bitter lens. If you have a suspicious tint, Tommy hurt you, but Brad is trying to love you. But you can't let Brad love you because your tint is suspicious. Which lens are you looking at life through? This woman had looked at life through the lens of loss. So good. Nothing is coming to stay. Everything is coming. It's going to leave me. So you don't really fully love because you are expecting it to walk out. On one hand, this woman is preparing to die. The thing that jumps out at me in this text is while she's preparing to die, what she don't know is God already told Elijah that he had commanded her to help him live. I want you to know that God is talking to someone about you. While you are looking at life through loss, and I've lost this and I have lost that, God told me to tell you that I've been having conversations with somebody about you, and they are expecting you to be their saving grace. They are expecting you to be the thing that helped to pull them out. God is saying, I want to show you how to use your pain and give it a purpose. Change the way you look at the situation, and the situation you look at And she says, okay, somebody come help me. I need a handheld. Thank you, brother. Will you help me get that out? Thank you. You can just put it right there. Thank you, Travis. Let me see that. Yeah, that's my wife. Thank you. You just grab that pan right there. I couldn't get the olive oil because she would have been mad. You know, that's the expensive, that's the healing oil. You know how many times I had laid hands on me, I wake up greased up, it was olive oil, mama. Thank you, thank you. Go back, minor, like you were, son. I love you, boy. You're my pride and joy. So it is to this woman that God sends the prophet. The woman that was preparing to die because all she did was look at life through the lens of what she lost. The betrayal. I can't trust again. The miscarriage. God, I will never have a child. The affair. The bankruptcy. Church hurt. This is it. I'm about to die. This is it. And the prophet says to her, give me some water and make me some bread too. She had only focused on what she's lost. Feed me first. I can't give you what I don't have. I can't give you what I don't have. I ain't got nothing else. I done gave it all away. I've been fighting my whole life. Feed me first. But what God told me to tell you, the miracle is never in what you lost. The miracle will always be in what you got left. Hold on. You mean to tell me that I have been spending 30 years focusing on what I didn't have and what such and such did to me? And God is saying, baby, I'm so sorry it happened, but I can use it for your good and for my glory. The miracle that God is wanting to perform in your life, Nakia, has nothing to do with what you lost. Self-correct, change your perspective, and God says, focus on what you got left. I might have lost my money, but I still got my mind. I might have lost my job, but I still have joy. I might have lost my position that I worked my whole life for, but I still have my peace. The question I want to ask you is, what do you have left? The miracle is not in what you lost. It's in what you have left. The fourth point, I'm not going to be able to give this to you today. You're going to have to join me online on Wednesday night. Prophetically, God told me that somebody was saying bad, evil words right then. Y'all thought I was about to go deep. I ain't gonna do that. Young man, I know you didn't have a daddy. God told me to tell you, if you needed a daddy, he would have made sure you had one. I am going to use all of it. All of your pain. All of your frustrations. All of your disappointment. I'm going to use it to perform the greatest miracle you have ever seen. If you want to move forward, it's going to require forward thinking. It's going to require you to self-correct. And it's going to require you to commit to the process. Because if not, God will let you live and die on the level that you settle on. I just want you to whisper to your neighbor on the right and the left and just say, I can't stay here. I can't stay here. I want this to haunt you at night. I can't stay here. I want it to wake you out of your sleep. I can't stay here. I want this thing to get on your ever-loving nerves.